What's up, YouTube? Andy from the Sports Card Flip Game, here with the latest on how to get you plugged into all things sports cards. In today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be reviewing some of the alternative marketplaces that you can go to buy and sell sports cards. We're going to be looking at a couple different and new marketplaces, and we're going to evaluate whether or not these seem like a good option for you, especially if you're trying to look at an alternative to buying and selling on eBay. If you haven't already yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you join the team, and go ahead and click that notification bell so you can be notified when I'm posting new content. I am posting content twice a week to help keep you informed on all the latest. And be sure to click on and leave us a comment down below. Tell me whether or not you like these marketplaces that I'm going to be reviewing, whether you like them, whether you don't, whether you're actually putting your money and your sports cards into these marketplaces, or if you're looking elsewhere. So without further ado, let's get into it. Today we're going to be looking at 4 different marketplaces. We're actually going to be looking at StockX. We're going to be looking at Star Stock. We're going to be looking at My Slabs. And we're also going to be looking at a new marketplace, or one that hasn't yet really come out, in slab stocks. So first we're going to start off with StockX. I've got my computer here. We're going to actually get into that and show you what that looks like. So StockX is obviously known for being a marketplace for buying and selling sneakers and flipping them. So they've gotten into trading cards. We're going to actually show you what that looks like here. When we click on it, you can actually see that you can browse through all the different types. When you click on collectibles, it's going to bring you down, and they've got, Cause dolls, trading card, Funko Pops, all kinds of things. We're going to click into trading cards and just really look at that. What I think StockX does well is there's 2 pieces. One is they only have graded cards on the site. So that does help sort of keep out the riffraff, so to speak, in that you're not going to get a really poorly conditioned card. You're only going to get a graded example of that card. And what they do really well is when you go in here and click into different cards, you can see these things that say lowest ask. So let's click on this Ronald Acuna rookie card. This is the 2018 Topps update. So you'll see there's 2 pieces that I think are really good. They have a buy or a bid category, and then a sell or an ask category. And what's cool about that is I think it does help both buyers and sellers sort of set the market. And you can go in here and click and see what the different, available pieces are for you. So this one has a PSA 10 that's $195 and a PSA 9 that's $77. There is also a BGS 9.5 that's $180. So you can see you get different examples, especially with a widely available Topps update, right? Ronald Acuna. There's going to be various options there. So if I'm looking to buy this card, I've got different examples and different grades of those. What it doesn't tell you, obviously, with like the BGS 9.5, is that a men gem? Is that a true gem? So that's a disadvantage. Obviously, there's so many different flavors, especially within BGS, that are really important to kind of keep in mind. And some people want to actually see that example of the card. That doesn't give this to you here. It's actually just showing kind of a mocked up version of that slab. And if I had one of those to sell, you can see what other ones are being sold for. So this one only has a PSA 10 at $150. Where this actually kind of the rubber meets the road on this with StockX is, in my mind, a lot of times there's a big gap, right? So you can see that asks here are really low. They're only $77. So there's not a lot of people out there actively trying to get one of these cards. And likewise, a PSA 10 for $150, I don't know the market on this Acuna update card. That's probably about in line. But I've seen some others where there's just astronomical sells. And so you kind of have to keep in mind that those may not be always the best bang for your buck when you're trying to find cards. The other thing that, kind of concerns me about StockX is there's just not a ton of cards available on their platform. because they're graded, that certainly shrinks their market quite a bit. But if you sort of look here, and this is all sports, this is football, baseball, basketball. There's a hockey card here, a Connor McDavid. We saw Topps Project 2020 card in here. If you kind of just scroll down, right, there's maybe only a couple hundred cards, and especially when you get down, you can kind of see the asks associated with them. You'll see that some of these are blank. And what that means is that there aren't any actual cards available of that particular version of that card, either available for you to buy or that someone is selling. And so that kind of worries me a little bit too, in that, hey, there's just not a ton of inventory available on StockX. And that's concerning to me, because ultimately, when you go and look at these cards, right, you want to be able to see that there's been proven sales. What's nice about this, let's see if we can find, I probably went a little too deep down to look at some of these cards. You can kind of see there's only, right, just a few here. When you go back up here, let's look at this Luka Doncic. There's going to be a lot here. It'll actually show you sales that have happened on StockX. So you can click in here, and it's going to ask me to sign up. I'm not going to actually do that. It had it in here just a minute ago, and I think sometimes it might pop it back up here for us. So, well, maybe not. But behind that, you can see that there is actual StockX data of what that's sold for. There's been some PSA 8s that have sold for 120 and 145. There's a PSA 9, right? So there are a lot of movement on those really well-known rookie cards, the Lukas, the Treys, the Mike Trouts, right? But when you get deeper down the rabbit hole, there just aren't as many, and therefore the gap between what buyers are asking and able to pay and what sellers are actually going to come down to, there just isn't that, kind of OBO or best offer option within StockX, and I think it really does hurt it. So it's one, right, like I think it's going to be there given the background with sneakers, but it's certainly not something that I think a lot of people in the trading card, in the hobby, have really gotten into. Next up, let's talk about star stocks. So this is one that I actually found fairly recently through a couple different ways. One is they actually reached out to me on Instagram and said, hey, can you take a look at our platform? We're just getting going. And so I kind of looked at it and was like, okay, this looks interesting, but I didn't really see a lot going on. And then recently I saw a Sports Card Investor interview with the founder, Scott, and it really kind of piqued my interest a little bit about what they're actually getting into. And really what it sounds like they're trying to do is provide a day trading platform, so to speak, with sports cards. And the idea being, when you're watching football on Sunday, you can say, man, I think Pat Mahomes is going to have a great game. Let's actually buy into his cards, and then hopefully be able to get out of them and pull some profit back in a very short time. And so the other thing that I think is neat about this is it sort of takes out of the equation shipping the sports cards, because obviously when you buy on eBay, you're buying and you wait a week, and sometimes it gets lost in transit, or when you're selling a card, you've got to go to the post office and ship it, and you write down the shipping information wrong, or your tracking numbers off, or there's just so many different things that kind of go, not to mention all the horror stories that you hear from sellers and buyers about, especially on those big transactions, people actually getting cold feet and backing out of the transactions. So actually having folks follow through on things can really be a hassle with eBay, and this sort of takes that out of the equation. The idea being that rather you actually getting a physical copy of a card, right, you're actually just getting that proof, or sort of like the Bitcoin equivalent. And so what's neat about this is you can go in here and you can see that there are already a good number, in my mind, of options in terms of cards. Now, what Star Stocks does is they only deal in rookie cards, right? So they're not going and saying, we're going to take a LeBron, first optic card or first prism card. We're only going to look at LeBron rookie card. And I think that's actually kind of neat because it's sort of leveling the playing field there. But where Star Stocks differs from StockX, say, is they say, okay, we're actually going to use, and we don't mind having raw or ungraded cards. And that does differ quite a bit from what some of the other grading companies do, or other platforms as well. So that really sort of does open the market up a little bit to, one, being able to make a quicker flip on something, and being able to take a lower value card and turn it 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times. That part is enticing to me, knowing I've got a lot of cards that are kind of in that $5 to $100 range, that are a lot of these true rookie cards of these folks, but aren't necessarily the PSA 10s of the world that I've already sent in and got graded and I'm looking to maximize my return on. Some of these also too that may not be the highest caliber example of that copy. So right, I've shown you in some previous videos where I've bought some cards that are a little bit off center. When you go in here and you actually look at, and we'll pull up this Zion base rookie, you can see that how they sort of classify this is with what's called a Star Stocks A, and then there are not other options available here, so they don't have a ton just yet, but they've sold through some other cards already. The idea being, when you click in here, you can see a Star Stock A. They've got 7 cards in their vault, 3 that are for sale right now for $200, and then some that are available on offer, so similar to what StockX has. And then their latest sale was actually at $185, so that's kind of cool that it shows you there. And what is interesting about this is, again, the Star Stocks A and B. We're going to click on this, and I forget where it is, where the A and B actually is specified. There we go. I think it's in here. There we go. Star Stocks raw scores. So they basically provide A, B, and C. So they're looking at it and saying, okay, rather than us having a PSA 10 or a BGS 9.5 or whatever, right? These are what they sort of define as the values that go along with that. And so I sort of look at this and go, you know what? It might not be a bad idea to send some of my cards that I'm not going to actually send in for grading to Star Stock, because if I can flip those and avoid having to sit on them on eBay and pay the astronomical fees, what's nice about this is they're put into a vault that Star Stock maintains, and then they're ultimately going to somebody else who then might be able to flip them, right? And so that's sort of the definition of kind of how they go about those. And I have a lot that probably are kind of in that A or B category, but maybe some C's, who knows? And as you can see, as we kind of got into it a little bit, there just aren't a ton of cards there yet. But I kind of see this as being a good value, simply because it's got this $5 card. It's got a $20 card. It doesn't have a lot of the variations. It doesn't have a lot of, I saw in here there was a National Treasures card or something like that. It doesn't have a ton of those just yet, right? It's mostly in the base rookie cards. But I think being able to do a quick flip, especially when the NBA comes back, especially when we get to the fall and with football, these can definitely be some good ways to make a quick profit. And then it remains to be seen how you actually get out of these cards, right? Because you essentially put money into it, much like you do an investing profile or portfolio. And then ultimately you want to have your card shipped to you, but that's still, right? I don't know enough people have done it yet to be able to say accurately kind of how it comes around. So next up on the docket is My Slabs. I actually heard about My Slabs through 502 Frank. What I had done a little bit of research on it. I think I had seen a Sports Card Investor about it a little while back, but hadn't really paid much attention to it. Obviously, in kind of looking through it, what they're focused on is vetting sellers. So instead of kind of only having graded examples, they still do that. So hence the name My Slabs. But they're really looking at it from the perspective of not having very high selling fees. So certainly no listing fees, 1% selling fee, to the actual sellers. So certainly a low threshold for folks to be able to go in and sell. But the idea is they're trying to really focus on or protect the sellers a little bit. So they're only looking at graded examples. Where this kind of comes into play too is just ultimately in the wide variety of cards that they have available. So you'll see that the site itself is pretty straightforward. It's literally a picture of the card and the value associated with that card. This doesn't specify between sports, so you would just type in here and you type in like Trey for Trae Young, and then it's going to show the available options. There are a couple of them here, so you can kind of go and just then sort between these are the highs to the lows. So you'll see a $55,000 Trae Young RPA from National Treasures, a $20,000 Prism Mojo, right, and kind of down from there. Let's do the other way so we can kind of see the lower examples. So there are a decent number of options on here, right, where this gets, so let's say we're going to go buy this Trae Young lottery ticket for $15. It's very straightforward. It's literally go in here and you click on buy now. There's nothing to it. So the idea is they're trying to take some of the hassle out of getting sniped or shill bidding, right? Like sort of taking that out of the equation, looking at just a very straightforward transaction with the seller where you look at this and you go, okay, there just aren't necessarily maybe a ton of options here, right? When you click on this, it shows you Luka Doncic, Luka Samanic. That's certainly fine. You can go in here, let's type in LeBron. So it has some options here, and certainly, right, these are just pictures that are kind of coming from the sellers. It's hard to tell whether or not, right, like these $500 examples, is that really in line with what is actually readily available on eBay or other options? So it's kind of hard to tell. You're definitely going to have to take your time to do your due diligence to figure out if these are actually worth it. I could see this in time being a much better way to go than eBay, simply because it's very straightforward. You're not having to worry necessarily about any of the shenanigans that goes on eBay. But until there's just tons and tons of cards, it may not quite be there yet. I do like the fact that this does have the availability to look at non-rookie cards, right? So you can see here are 16, 17, 14 select Spectra cards. So there's a wider variety of choices. Certainly still in PSA cases. Still, I have no idea if those are good prices or not to kind of go along with it. So it remains to be seen if My Slabs is going to really catch on. But for now, looks like a decent way to go. I would kind of rank it behind Star Stocks a little bit, but ahead of StockX. And then the fourth and final one we're going to look at is actually one that hasn't yet hit the market, and it's from our friends at Slab Stocks. So they have an actual marketplace that they're working on and developing, and I'm excited to actually kind of see this. When you're really just looking at the pictures on the website, I don't know if we have everything to quite go off of just yet. So the proof will really be in the pudding once this comes out, and we'll see if they get a bunch of traction and actually make it. What is nice is you can kind of see that there's some analytics that they're looking at sort of embedded in buying the different cards, and then here are your different options kind of available down below. And then what is nice when you kind of peek a little bit further at this, what I sort of looked at, okay, so it's got eBay integrated into it. Great. What I thought was kind of cool was a head-to-head comparison, right? So be able to see two different slabs up against each other. Certainly, right, like if I say, okay, I've got $500 to spend, I want to figure out which one's going to be a better investment, this card or that card. I think that could be kind of cool. So I'm excited to see how that sort of shakes out. So this is one that certainly maybe is on the come up. It's certainly in development. It remains to be seen if it's going to be good or not, what the fees are going to be like. Are they going to have market traction around it? All those sort of things remain to be seen. So the jury's still kind of out on that one. But for my money, if I kind of had to say where I'm going to put some money to right now, I think I'm going to actually use Star Stock a little bit and actually send some cards into them, actually put some money into my account and buy some cards and just kind of play with it a little bit. And then I'm going to keep an eye on my slabs to see if they make a little bit more of a come up. Not really going to use StockX. Really just don't have enough graded examples or really care to kind of vet those out. And then we'll remain to be seen on slab stocks as well. So that's going to do it for today's video. Again, thank you very much to two of my subscribers, Nicholas Tan and Sunship Lifestyle, for coming up with the idea for this video, for saying, hey, let's look at some alternative marketplaces and actually looking at Star Stocks in specific. So thank you to them. Right, give me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about these marketplaces. Are you using them? Are you not? Are you sticking to eBay? We didn't really even get into Facebook, Instagram, all the other different things. I wanted to kind of show you some of the latest sports card specific marketplaces. So leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about these. And until next time, keep your flip game strong.